Welcome to A6 sequences. So first of all, I want to look at what this follows directly from. You've been doing, hopefully recently, substituting values. That was in A4 formulae when you were substituting values in as x and as y and things like that. You've also been doing linear graphs in A5 where you were looking at tables like the one that's on the board and looking for the y values given the x values and an equation. You will notice, or hopefully you noticed in that topic, that the y values start to follow a certain pattern or a certain sequence, and that leads directly into sequences. If you're not sure about either of these two things, either substituting or your linear graphs, now would be a really good time to go back over those contents. Go back to the remote learning document for A4 and A5 and just have a double check that you are happy with everything that's there. You may or may not have seen a remote learning document before. If you haven't, it will be attached to your FROG instructions when you do any remote learning. It will look like this one that is on the board. This one is a little bit longer, this is just the top. What you have are a set of objectives that cover all the learning from this unit. If you work through the document and tick off as you go, then you know you will have covered all of the content and are up to speed. Don't leave anything out. Have a look at those objectives and you'll see that we've got Corbett Maths on there and some videos you need to be watching and some questions that you need to complete in your maths book. Your maths teacher may ask for evidence of this and pictures uploaded to FROG or something like that. There's also a couple of lessons on Oak Academy for you to do and some tasks for you to complete on Hegarty. If you can do all of these and you are happy with all of these, you'll know that you are happy with all of that or this content, which is A6. If you are stuck or you don't understand something on the remote learning document, you must ask for help. Drop your teacher an email and they'll be able to explain what's going on. So, thinking about the objectives that we've just looked at, the first one is about generating terms of a sequence from term to term and position to term rules, finding missing terms. So, you will be doing things like extending the sequences that are on the board, so extending from 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 and going forwards with that. You will also be looking at what's called the nth term rule and generating terms from this. As I've just mentioned, the nth term rule is actually our second objective. So, the nth term rule is a rule that tells us how to get from one term to the next and how we can find our 20th term or our 40th term. You'll be shown how to do this in class. There's an example on the board. Other things you need to know how to do, such as recognising common sequences. You'll see on the board all sorts of common sequences, some of which you will already know, some of which you might not know. Things like your square numbers, hopefully you know those, that is a sequence. Your cube numbers down the middle, so 1 cubed is 1 and 2 cubed is 8 and so on. But perhaps you've not met your triangular numbers before. Triangular numbers, as you can see by the picture, form a triangle, something perhaps you haven't met before, but something you need to know and need to know how to generate the next one. In the bottom right corner is a very special sequence. It's the Fibonacci sequence, which you will meet in this topic, and that hopefully you might know a little bit about already. In your test, you might see some questions like you see on the board, where we've got a visual representation of a sequence, and we need to continue this sequence or work out how many matchsticks, for example, in those triangular questions at the bottom, how many would be in the 7th sequence. This will be something you'll be looking at in class. So where does it all lead? We've been looking at sequences, where do they go on to? Eventually you're going to start looking at what are called quadratic sequences. You can see an example of this on the screen. Quadratic sequences are where we don't go up by the same amount each time. You will look at those and you will look at how to find the nth term. There's a little hint on the board, but you don't need to know that right now. But also you will look at quadratic curves, your parabola that's on the board, and how we generate the y values from our x values and whether they form some form of sequence or pattern. So, why are sequences important in the bigger picture of mathematics? You will see sequences and patterns everywhere you go, not just in mathematics, but in quite a lot of random things. You know, there's a picture on the screen of sequences appearing in plants. How on earth that happens? Interesting. You need to be looking for sequences everywhere, because sequences will help you work out what's coming next, what's going on, and you will see them in a lot of what you do in mathematics. So please look out for sequences. Please ask your teacher if you're stuck on anything, and remember, work through that remote learning document and email when you need help.